Hi, my name is Amelie Zhao, and I'm the author of Song of Silver, Flame Like Night, which is a Chinese xianxia-inspired story of a song girl in a fallen and conquered kingdom who believes that the ancient magic of her people is dead until she meets a young magician that tells her that the key to liberating their nation might lie in awakening the demons that sleep at its heart.
Amelie Zhao is the Paris-born Chinese author of Song of Silver, Flame Like Night, which came out in early January 2023. This book follows Lan, a girl living in a colonized country where her culture has been ripped away from her as a child. She's lost her mother, her home, even her own name. Then, she encounters a boy who recognizes a magical mark on her, and she realizes her long-dead mother may have been hiding some very big secrets from her. Hi, I'm Gemma and welcome to the red carpet. Amelie is here to talk to us about Song of Silver, Flame Like Night. Hi Amelie, thanks for taking the time to be with us today.
Hi, Gemma. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
In your newest book, we follow Lan as she goes on a journey of self-discovery while also trying to save her home country from invaders. Can you tell us more about your main character Lan and her characters?
Absolutely. So Lan actually, or Song Lian, came to me first in a scene for this book. I saw this song girl in silks dancing at an ancient Chinese tea house, but she wanted to escape. So I asked myself questions, why is this girl here? Who is she? Why does she want to escape such a beautiful and perfect place? And Lan was born. And so the first thing about Lan that we see is that she is a survivor. She lives in a conquered land and she has lost everything at the age of 6 years old. Her home, her family, her culture, her tradition, and basically her entire life has been ripped away from her. So when we first encounter her, she's really focused on surviving, and she comes off as like this street smart, cheeky, kind of a jokester and very confident, and appears like things are very much under her control. And that is kind of the armor that she's built for herself in order to live on. So she has all these memories of what happened when she was 6 years old that she's locked away in her brain, and in order for her to live on. But as we go deeper into the story, we start to peel off these layers of her, almost like an onion. So the first clue that we have that she's a little more complex than how she appears is that she is searching for this mysterious mark that her mother left on her while she was dying. And she tells her shopkeeper friend, she says, well, I'm searching for this mark because maybe I hope that there's more to this life. Maybe I want to find a world where we're not living in a conquered kingdom. And everything kind of changes, and that is really drawn out when she meets Zen, the other main character and the powerful young scholar and magician in this book. And she finds out that there is so much to the history of her kingdom and these secrets that she wasn't aware of, and this really ancient magic that's the legacy of her people. And she finds her purpose in life. We peel back the layers of the jokester street rat, and she was this lost and grieving young woman who's trying to find her path forward. And so as we move deeper, her character development trajectory really kicks off, and she goes from being, in denial to accepting her circumstances, and then finding out that, maybe she has the power and the key to liberate her people and to fight for her kingdom.
Right, as I was reading, even though she is a survivor and has gone through all this trauma, I was really impressed by her ability to always have a cheerful disposition, even when times get rough. And when she meets Zen, things completely change for her. Can you tell me more about their dynamic relationship?
Absolutely. So their relationship was probably one of my favorites to write throughout this book. They're kind of the grumpy sunshine and the enemies to lovers or enemies as lovers tropes. They're kind of a mishmash of that. We have this street rat who's, been scurrying around, surviving, and, is pretty rebellious, slips under the rules and does whatever she can to get by. And then we have this stiff-backed, proper magician who's been brought up by the rules of his prestigious school of practicing, and their worlds collide. And that was so much fun just to see them kind of conflict. And then their relationship blooming from, reluctant allies into some semblance of trust and then attraction as they slowly find that their goals actually, are the same. They both want to save their kingdom. But the path as to how to do that, that's exactly what the book explores. And that's the duality of Song of Silver, Flame Like Night.
I love the whole enemies to lovers portion, because even though they started off with such different backgrounds and different intentions, they eventually come together to work together to fight to save their kingdom, as you said. So colonization is kind of a buzzword these days. While you were writing, did you have any particular thoughts when you made up the Atlanteans? And what was the message you were trying to get across here?
So, yeah, colonialism features very heavily in Song of Silver, Flame Like Night, and as well, not just externally, but kind of an inward-looking reflection of imperialism. We start off the story in a fictional port city called Hakgong, which is very much an allusion to Hong Kong under colonized British rule. As well, we have the Atlanteans, the colonizing forces, which, again, a very obvious allusion to the Western forces that invaded parts of China during China's century of humiliation. So when I crafted these colonizers, the best villains not only are just straight up evil, but they have a good reason to do what they do. Like, they think they are the main characters of their story. They think what they're doing is right. And the two themes of colonialism that I wanted to explore were first, the fight for natural resources, and second, the search for power. And the Atlanteans do both of this, taking advantage of the abundant resources of the Hin Kingdom, but also they look for the power of the ancient magic of the Hin people. In the book, the Atlanteans have this metal magic that is kind of representative and symbolic of industrialization, war and aggression, and capitalism. And that is just a branch of the spiritual qi magic of the Hin people, which is found in every single aspect of life. And these Hin practitioners or magicians have the ability to manipulate all of that qi. So the Atlanteans come in and they say, we want to take all of this for ourselves. But besides giving them a reason, the book really explores, the effects of colonialism upon the colonized. And we follow all the characters in the book who have lost something to the invasion and to the colonialism, and how they seek to preserve their heritage and their roots and really fight to take back their kingdom and their culture and their traditions.
Yeah, I think even though your book is a fantasy, a lot of us can actually see our own histories written through this book as well. And at the beginning of the book, your letter to the reader reveals that this book is heavily inspired by your own family's history. Why did you want to share these experiences?
I think most of, if not all of, Song of Silver, Flame Like Night is inspired by my family history or the history of my people. My own grandmother was a war orphan who fled her home in Kaifeng, Henan, to escape the occupation of the Japanese. And I grew up in her Beijing courtyard house, or her Siheyuar, listening to her life stories and realizing that the histories that we read in the textbooks aren't so far from us after all. Like, they are a living and breathing part of us. So my grandmother and all of my grandparents actually have gone through so much of being uprooted by war and political turmoil and then civil war throughout China's history in the past 100 or so years. And a lot of Song of Silver, Flame Like Night is about a girl and her friends searching for their lost roots. My own family tree has, a lot of roots that were cut from, being just uprooted throughout. And just searching for that heritage and the lost oral traditions and real life experiences of the parts of my family that I don't know features very heavily in the book. So I think that is a major theme that I wanted to explore. And I wanted to really celebrate the spirit of my people. We've been through so much of the tides and turns of history, and we're still here. And I think we have such a vibrant culture and heritage that I would love to explore in a beautiful and magical world.
Yeah, I think your book is such a great way to honor the people who came before you, especially when you're telling their story. And a lot of us can see ourselves through this as well. We're not so far removed from how long ago when our own parents have suffered from war. Like, people think that it's happened so long ago in the past and it's just history now, but we still experience that generational trauma as well. And I know that you were born in Paris. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because that being Chinese but born in Paris isn't really something we hear about too often.
Yeah, it's so interesting because actually that has such an interesting historical reason behind it. So China's history comes from the Cultural Revolution all the way to the opening and reform around the 70s and 80s. And my parents were actually the first group of students that were allowed to go study abroad, and that they received kind of financial support to do so. And they just ended up going to France. And they lived abroad as kind of these really poor immigrants. For a while, they slept on cardboard boxes with cockroaches and everything. But they were able to make it in some ways. And, they were able to get their degrees and find jobs. And so I was born there. But very quickly, they went back to Beijing, where I grew up. And so that is the story.
Thank you for sharing that with me. I feel a little bit more connected to you because my grandmother also went to Paris during the Vietnam War. So I feel just a little bit more connected to you in that way.
Aww.
So your book also incorporates a lot of Chinese mythology and folklore. Can you explain the cultural aspects to our audience that may not be familiar with Chinese culture?
Yeah, so much of Song of Silver, Flame Like Night is based on Chinese mythology, folklore, culture, and philosophy that I could write an essay about it. But I'm going to start with the most obvious, which is these creatures on the cover, these mythical demon gods that appear within the fictional world that are very much inspired by the mythology of real world China. They're based on these four symbols, or 4xiang. And those are traditionally auspicious gods that represent the four cardinal directions and certain power and luck and fortune. They were, woven onto war banners, and people would carry them into war, etc. And they're these traditionally good and kindly gods. And so I took that and I was like, what if I didn't make them good? What if I made them these agents of chaos who have their own selfish desires for power? And what if I just set them loose on a second world fictionalized version of China? And so that's where the demon gods came from. But really, all of the magic and philosophy of Song of Silver, Flame Like Night pays a lot of homage to our literary genres of wuxia and xinxia. Those are based upon certain religions, such as Taoism, certain principles, such as what we call zhongyong, or the doctrine of the mean, yin-yang as well. So a lot of the book explores how, there's not just a black and white, good and evil. There's a middle line, and where that line is and how we interpret that and how we act upon that is how we move forward. So that's a little bit about, the mythology and folklore and culture and song.
Did you take any creative license when it came to creating that magic in the world?
Absolutely. There are so many, and as a second world fantasy writer, there are so many creative liberties that you can draw upon. And the magic system in Song of Silver, Flame Like Night is probably one of the most intricate and complex that I've created, but also the one that has come to me most naturally just from growing up in China and being exposed to all sorts of, our fiction and our, I guess, our history and our principles. The magic system in song is very much based off of tea, which I think most people know, but it's essentially just your energy or spiritual energy. And in Song of Silver, Flame Like Night, this energy applies to every single thing in the world: water, earth, fire, animals, monsters, gods, and demons. And there are certain practitioners of this energy that can take upon various strands and combine them into spells that are called seals. And the underlying principle of this is founded upon, again, the yin yang principle of harmony and balance. And the magic is really supposed to be used to keep peace and keep balance. But of course, humans being humans, it's taken into war and it's, fought over. And so the book kind of explores what happens when that balance is broken and where you draw the line and the nuances to that. So, yeah.
Now that you've completed the first book in the series, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling so excited and just, it's been a whirl in the past few months of revealing the cover and promoting, starting interviews, and seeing people just read it and love it just makes me so, so happy. I am just beyond excited to share. It's truly, how people say it's the book of your heart, but this is the book of my heart and soul, and it's the book of my history and my heritage. So I'm so excited for it to be out in the world and with readers.
And thank you for writing the book about your history as well. How did COVID impact your writing journey?
COVID had a huge impact. I'm sure most writers will agree. So back in March 2020, I had been meaning to go home to Beijing to spend some time with my family, and global and overseas travel came to a complete standstill. So I was not trapped in the US, but I had to stay here, and I found myself super homesick and missing my family. At the same time, in the US, we were receiving a spate of anti-Asian rhetoric and waking up every day to see news of horrible things happening to people like me and people like us just made me feel so angry and helpless. So combining the homesickness with that kind of those negative emotions, I did the one thing I could as a writer, which is I put my pen to paper, and the first lines I wrote for song were, "She would no longer be the flower, she would become the blade." So as much as this book is in kind of response to the political environment on this side of the world, it's also meant to be empowering and a celebration of people like you and me and my people and traditions, and to give us a face that you might not often see on TV or in the news, which is the beautiful 1,000-year-old history and culture and myths that we have, and add some magic to that, and that's Song of Silver, Flame Like Night.
Absolutely, a celebration of Asianness. Another reason why Red Carpet exists as well, to help promote Asian authors just like yourself. So I know that this is not your day job. How do you balance both portions of your life?
It's something I'm still trying to figure out. So for background, I work in finance and I also write fantasy. And it's such an interesting mix to come home from talking about interest rates for a whole day and then be like, how should I write this battle scene of 4 mythical demon gods? So I think that my job in finance is related to the interests I grew up with, which is economics and the global political environment. And fantasy kind of appeals to the creative part of me that's always loved stories and books. And my day job, I love it. It keeps me super grounded and very steady. And it makes writing feel like something super, super fun, like a little secret that I can come home to after work and work on. So it is hard to balance. It's something I'm still figuring out, but I'll carve out pockets of time and guard that time very, very heavily. Being able to just say, I'm going to take this 1 hour and just dive in and write out a page. It doesn't have to be great, but it's going to be there. And getting something done in the time that you have, I think, is something that a lot of authors who also have jobs and children and other obligations will identify with. So still figuring out the balance, but it's working for me so far. And I'm so lucky to be able to do kind of both of my dream jobs together.
Time management is definitely a skill a lot of us need to work on. What are you most excited for readers to experience in the book?
Can I say everything?
Yeah.
I'm so excited, I think, for readers to just fall into this world because it's just an outpouring of everything that I grew up with and I loved, and adding magic to all this beautiful, ancient Chinese world and architecture and clothing and magic. So I think the world is the first that I'm excited for readers to experience, and also the dynamic between the two main characters, Len and Zen. They were such a fun duo for me to write. They played off each other so well. It was so much fun using the jokester Len to rile up the really stiff-backed practitioner Zen. And yeah, I hope readers just love it.
I can absolutely feel the love you have for your culture and your background as I was reading your book as well. So I'm excited for people to get to experience that. So we are a K-pop station, and I hear you have a few favorite artists. Can I ask who you like to listen to?
I love BTS, which may be the response for so many people, but I love their music. They have such a huge repertoire and they have such wide range. That it's just so nice to be able to listen to hours on end while I'm like in a car or just for fun. So I absolutely love them. What about you?
I love BTS as well. They've made such an impact, and the cultural aspects of just introducing Eastern music to the Western audience and making it more normalized as well. Like, they had to be commended for that.
Absolutely.
Your new book, Song of Silver, Flame Like Night, came out at the beginning of 2023. Can you tease the audience with something from the book?
Ooh, let me look for one. Okay, so one of my favorite passages, it's a little long, but I'll read the first few lines of it. The 12th cycle, Len thought. Gods, has it been that long? If she closed her eyes, she could remember exactly how her world had ended. Snow falling like ashes, wind sighing through bamboo, and the song of a wood lute weaving to the skies. That's my favorite passage.
That is so beautiful. Like, how could you not want to read this book?
Thank you.
Okay, so I know that this is the first in a series. Can you tell us anything about what's coming up next? What's going to happen with book 2?
I have it written, which is great. And I have my revision notes back from my editor, which I'm super, super excited to dive into. But more demon godly grappling, more of these morally gray choices and characters being pushed to the edge, and questioning their decisions and whether certain actions for the greater good are worth the cost of sacrifice.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
Thank you.
I need, let me know what crimes I need to commit in order to get a copy of it.
We'll make sure you have the earliest edition. That's
oh my gosh, thank you. Okay, so I know that this is your second series. You have 3 other books written. Where can we find your books for purchase?
So my first series is called The Blooder Trilogy, and the covers match. They're both blue. This is set in a Russian-inspired kingdom about an exiled heir who has the power to control blood, and she's out to unravel the corruption that's at the heart of her empire. So Blood Heir can be found wherever books are sold, and so can Song of Silver, Flame Like Night. And if you're interested in personalized copies of both, Books of Wonder in New York City is offering them as a personalized and signed package.
And where can we find you on social media?
I am on Instagram and TikTok under the handle Amelie Zhao. So just my full name. And I make funny, goofy Chinese culture meme videos and just talk about my love for books.
I've seen your cosplays. They're so good.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Amelie. I hope our viewers get to pick up a copy now that the book is out. I'm sure they will be just as entranced as I was following its characters Lan and Zen as they saved the world.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure chatting with you, Gemma.
Thank you. My guest today has been author Amelie Zhao with her book Song of Silver, Flame Like Night, available for purchase wherever books are sold. You can find us with more conversations with authors at 24hourkpop.com. I'm Gemma for the Kpop-TV Entertainment Network, and I'll see you next time.